The transport bay doors hissed open, and Captain Joran of the Royal Guard stepped through, his hand already on his plasma rifle. The distress signal had cut off mid-transmission. 3 of his best soldiers lay unconscious on the deck plates, their weapons scattered. A human child sat cross-legged beside them, eating from a ration pack she'd pulled from someone's belt. She couldn't have been more than 8 standard years old, dark hair tangled, face smudged with engine grease. "Stand up slowly," Joran said in Galactic Common, keeping his weapon trained center mass. "Hands where I can see them." The girl looked up, chewed thoughtfully, then swallowed. "You're not going to shoot me." "I will if you've harmed my men. They're sleeping." I needed them to stop asking questions. She pulled out a protein bar, examined it, made a face. "Do you have anything that doesn't taste like recycled boots?" Joran's secondary eyes narrowed, thermal scanners analyzing her for concealed weapons. Nothing. Just a child in torn station clothes, barefoot, radiating body heat consistent with stress and malnutrition. "How did you incapacitate 3 armed guards?" "Pressure points. Vagus nerve manipulation. Standard human combat techniques." She said it like she was discussing the weather. "I didn't hurt them. They'll wake up in 20 minutes with headaches. You're coming with me to the detention cells until we sort this out." "No, I'm not. I need to see Queen Visera. It's urgent." Joran felt his crest flatten against his skull. Every instinct screamed that this situation was wrong. Children didn't disable trained soldiers. Children didn't board military vessels during lockdown protocols. Children didn't demand audiences with the ruling monarch of the Kethran Empire. The Queen doesn't grant audiences to stowaways. She will for me. The girl stepped over an unconscious guard, heading toward the inner corridor. "Tell her Ambassador Chen's daughter is here. Tell her it's about the treaty." Joran moved to block her path. Ambassador Chen died 3 years ago. Killed when her diplomatic shuttle was destroyed by separatist forces. That's what the reports say. The girl met his eyes without flinching. "I was on that shuttle. Then you'd be dead too." "Obviously not." She tilted her head, studying him with unsettling focus. "Captain Joran, right? You served under Commander Vest during the Frontier Wars. 3 commendations for valor. 1 for refusing a direct order when it would have cost civilian lives." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I read personnel files when I'm bored." "You're a good man. That's why I'm going to give you a choice. You can try to stop me, and I'll put you down like I did your men. Or you can take me to the Queen, and maybe we both live through what's coming." Joran's combat computer registered a threat spike in the bay's external sensors. Ships were approaching. Multiple signatures, moving in formation patterns that belonged to no registered faction. What's coming? The people who killed my mother. The people who've been planning to kill your queen for the last 18 months. The people who are going to breach this station in approximately 12 minutes. The girl walked past him, moving with the confident stride of someone much older. "I have information they'll torture out of me if they catch me. Information the Queen needs, so you can follow protocol and secure the stowaway, or you can trust that maybe, just maybe, I know what I'm talking about." The tactical display on Joran's wrist lit up. "Proximity alerts?" The unknown ships were matching velocity with the station, burn profiles suggesting boarding action. He made his decision. "Stay close. If you run, I will stun you and carry you." He activated his comm. "This is Joran to command. We have a situation. Unknown vessels inbound, possible hostile intent. I'm bringing a human child to the throne room." "Yes," I said child. "No, I'm not explaining over open channels." "Activate security protocol midnight. Lock down all external airlocks." They moved through corridors that sealed behind them, blast doors dropping into place with hydraulic finality. Other guards joined them, forming a protective square around the girl who walked like she'd done this 1,000 times before. She didn't look frightened. She looked focused, calculating like a chess player 3 moves ahead. The throne room doors opened to reveal Queen Visera seated on the crystalline seat, her forearms folded in the formal posture of judgment. She was massive, even for a Kethran, her carapace marked with the scars of 24 assassination attempts. Her compound eyes fixed on the child with the weight of absolute authority. "Captain Joran, you have 10 seconds to explain why you've brought a human child before me during a security emergency." The girl stepped forward before Joran could speak. "Hello, Auntie Vess." Her voice was quiet, almost gentle. "It's been a while." The entire throne room went silent. Guards froze. The Queen's breathing apparatus cycled audibly. "Mara?" The Queen's voice cracked, the first time Joran had ever heard emotion break through that iron control. "Mara Chen?" "The same." The girl smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. You told my mother you'd protect me, that if anything ever happened, you'd keep me safe. I thought you were dead. The explosion was meant to kill us both. It almost worked. Mara's smile faded. Mom pushed me into an escape pod 30 seconds before impact. I've been running ever since, trying to get back here, trying to warn you. They're coming, Auntie Vess. The ones who killed her. And they're not done killing. Explosions rocked the station's outer hull. Alarms screamed to life. On every tactical display, hostile signatures bloomed like blood in water. The Queen rose from her throne, all four hands reaching for weapons that materialized from hidden compartments. Then we'd better make them regret it. Joran watched the small human child step to the Queen's side, watched her pull a data chip from her pocket with the careful precision of someone delivering a bomb, and understood that the universe had just become infinitely more complicated. I have the names. Everyone who betrayed the treaty, everyone who's been planning the coup. But we have to move now. They know I'm here. The Queen took the chip, loaded it into her neural interface, and her expression transformed into something terrifying. Joran. Get my war council. Seal the throne room. And somebody find this child a proper meal. She looked down at Mara and her voice softened just slightly. Your mother would be proud. You came home. I never left, Mara whispered. I just took the long way back. The station shuddered under another barrage. Somewhere in the distance, hull plating screamed as boarding craft punched through. But in the throne room, surrounded by the finest warriors of the Kethron Empire, a small human girl stood ready for war, carrying secrets that could topple governments and the weight of promises her mother had died protecting. Joran activated every weapon system at his disposal and prepared to discover exactly what Ambassador Chen's daughter had become in 3 years of running, hiding, and surviving. The answer, he suspected, would be written in blood and fire across the stars before this day ended. The War Council assembled in 90 seconds flat. Generals, admirals, intelligence chiefs, all staring at the holographic display where Mara's data chip had painted a constellation of betrayal across the known systems. 23 names. 17 of them currently serving in positions of high authority within the Kethron government. Impossible, Admiral Kress said, his mandibles clicking in distress. Half these people have served the Empire for decades. That's what makes them perfect, Mara said from her position beside the Queen. Someone had given her a military jacket 3 sizes too large. She'd rolled up the sleeves and stood like a soldier at parade rest. Long service records, trusted positions, access to everything. My mother figured it out 6 months before they killed her. She died getting this information to me. General Thex, the oldest warrior present, studied the child with his 6 good eyes. And how did a human diplomat uncover a conspiracy that our own intelligence services missed? Because she was human. The Queen's voice cut through the room like a vibration blade. Because humans think differently. They see patterns we miss. They ask questions we wouldn't consider. She turned to Mara. Show them what you showed me. Mara manipulated the hologram with movements that suggested extensive practice with Kethran interfaces. The display shifted, showing communication networks, financial transfers, ship movements over a 3-year period. It started small. Delayed supply shipments to frontier outposts, missing ammunition allocations, intelligence reports that arrived just slightly too late to be useful. Her fingers danced across the controls, highlighting connections. Individually, each incident looks like bureaucratic incompetence. Together, they form a pattern. Someone has been systematically weakening your defensive perimeter for years. To what end? Kress demanded. To make the Empire vulnerable to invasion, to create chaos, then step in as saviors who can restore order. Mara pulled up another layer of data. The conspiracy isn't Kethran. It's cross-species. Humans, Catharans, Vex, even some traitors. All united by one thing. They profit from war, and the current peace treaty is killing their business. The implications hit the room like a physical blow. The peace treaty between humans and Kethrons had ended 2 centuries of conflict. It had stabilized 12 sectors, opened trade routes, created unprecedented prosperity. It had also bankrupted weapons manufacturers, military contractors, and the entire war economy both species had built their power structures around. They want war, the Queen said quietly. They've wanted it since the day we signed the treaty. Your mother and I knew there would be resistance, but we underestimated how deep it ran. Explosions continued hammering the station's shields. Joran monitored his tactical display, watching hostile forces carve through the outer defense grid with disturbing precision. "They know our defensive patterns," he reported. "They're exploiting gaps in our coverage that shouldn't exist unless they had access to tactical planning databases." "They do!" Mara highlighted 3 names on the conspiracy list. "Your tactical officer, your shield coordinator, and your dockmaster are all compromised. They've been feeding intelligence to the attackers for months." Thex's claws extended involuntarily. "Those are death penalty offenses. We'll worry about justice later," the Queen said. "Right now we need to survive. Captain Joran, implement Protocol Black Sun. Assume all tactical systems are compromised. Revert to manual fire control and independent ship operations." "That will reduce our effectiveness by 40%, Crest protested. "Better than giving the enemy our firing solutions." The Queen turned to Mara. "You said you've been running for 3 years. From whom?" "The people leading this attack. They're called the Syndicate. No official structure, no registered organization, just a network of people who want the galaxy burning because they profit from the flames." Mara's voice was steady, but Joran saw her hands trembling slightly. "They've been hunting me because I'm the only living person who can identify their leadership. My mother died making sure I escaped with this evidence. I've been moving from station to station, stealing identities, hiding in cargo holds, staying one step ahead." "You were 8 years old," the Queen said, something breaking in her voice. "I was the daughter of the human ambassador. Mom made sure I knew how to survive. Languages, combat techniques, infiltration protocols, emergency medicine." Mara smiled sadly. "She used to joke that she was raising a spy instead of a child. Turns out she was preparing me for exactly this." The station rocked violently. Structural alarms howled. "Hull breach, Section 7, Joran reported. They're through the outer defenses. Boarding parties deploying." "How many?" the Queen asked. "At least 300. Heavily armed. Military-grade equipment." Mara pulled up a schematic of the station. "They'll push for the command center first, try to seize control of life support and communications. Standard assault doctrine. But they'll also send a secondary team here. To the throne room. They want you dead. Anti-Vess. Public execution, broadcast across all channels. It's the only way to break the Empire's morale completely. Let them come." The Queen activated her personal armor, plates sliding over her carapace with mechanical precision. "This throne has been defended against better warriors than mercenary scum. With respect, Your Majesty, they're not mercenaries." Mara's expression went cold. "They're true believers. People who think the galaxy needs culling, that peace makes species weak. They'll die gladly if it means taking you with them." Joran felt his tactical computer ping. Enemy forces were converging on their location from 3 directions, moving with coordinated precision that spoke of professional military training. "ETA to contact. 4 minutes, he announced. "We need to evacuate the Queen." "No." Visara's voice was absolute. "We hold this room. We make our stand here, where every leader of the Empire has stood for 10,000 years. If we run, we concede that they can make us afraid." Joran was already moving, directing guards to defensive positions, activating energy barriers, setting overlapping fields of fire. "General Thex, take your best shooters to the upper galleries. Admiral Kress, lock down all approach corridors, leave them only one entry point. We'll funnel them into a kill zone. Wait." Mara was studying the holographic display, fingers moving rapidly. "They'll expect that. They've studied your defensive protocols." She manipulated the projection, showing enemy approach vectors. "See? They're moving to counter exactly that formation. Whoever's leading this assault knows how Royal Guards think." "What do you suggest?" the Queen asked. "We do something they won't expect. Something human." Mara's smile was sharp as broken glass. "We let them think they're winning." Vinig Jorian listened as the 8-year-old child outlined a tactical plan that would have impressed veteran strategists. It was ruthless, efficient, and relied on psychological warfare as much as firepower. It also required using the Queen as bait. "Absolutely not," Kress said immediately. "It's sound tactics," Thex countered, studying the plan with professional interest. "Unconventional, but sound. It puts Her Majesty in direct line of fire." "I'm always in the line of fire," the Queen said. "That's what it means to wear the crown. Captain Joran, can your people execute this plan?" Joran ran probability calculations, factored in his soldiers' capabilities, calculated acceptable losses. The numbers were brutal, but achievable. "But we'll take casualties. We'll take worse if we fight conventionally." The Queen looked at Mara. You've been planning this, haven't you? You didn't just come here to warn me. You came with a battle plan. I've had 3 years to think about how to fight these people. 3 years watching them, learning their patterns, understanding how they operate? Mara's voice was quiet. They killed my mother. I'm going to make them regret it. The tactical displays showed enemy forces entering the final approach corridor. 2 minutes to contact. Do it, the Queen commanded. Joran started issuing orders, his guards moving with practiced efficiency to positions that looked defensive but were actually carefully planned ambush points. The Queen remained on her throne, deliberately exposed, the perfect target to draw the enemy exactly where they wanted them. Mara stood beside her, unarmed, a child, waiting for monsters. Are you afraid? The Queen asked quietly. Terrified, Mara admitted. But fear is useful. It keeps you sharp. Mom taught me that. She taught you well. The Queen's hand rested on Mara's shoulder, a gesture of protection and pride. When this is over, we need to discuss your future. The Empire could use someone with your skills. I just want to stop running. Today. Here. The throne room doors exploded inward in a shower of molten metal. Armed figures poured through the breach, weapons raised, scanning for targets. They saw exactly what they expected. The Queen on her throne, guards in defensive positions, a child huddled beside the monarch. The lead attacker raised his rifle. For the Syndicate, he screamed. For the Fallen, Mara whispered. Joran triggered the trap. Energy barriers that appeared to be protecting the Queen suddenly reversed polarity, creating a cage that trapped the enemy assault team in the throne room's center. Concealed weapons pods dropped from the ceiling, targeting systems locking onto the trapped attackers. The guards who'd seemed to be in defensive positions revealed themselves to be positioned for perfect crossfire. The attackers had walked into a perfectly constructed kill box. Surrender, the Queen commanded, her voice amplified to fill the chamber. Drop your weapons and you'll be granted trial under Imperial law. The lead attacker laughed, blood running from his mouth where he'd bitten through his tongue, triggering a suicide implant. We already won, he gasped. The war is coming. Your death just makes it official.
He detonated. The explosion should have killed everyone in the throne room.
Should have vaporized the Queen, her guards, the child who'd come to warn her. Should have been the opening blow in a new galaxy-wide conflict. Instead, it hit layered energy shields that Mara had positioned using human engineering principles the attackers hadn't anticipated. The blast reflected inward, contained by the very cage that had trapped the assault team, consuming them in their own weapons' fury. When the smoke cleared, the Queen still sat on her throne, her guards still stood at their posts, and Mara Chen, daughter of the ambassador who had died for peace, stood watching the aftermath with eyes that had seen too much death. How did you know? Jorn asked, checking the perimeter for additional threats. They always go for the dramatic gesture, always choose spectacle over efficiency. Mara's voice was tired. Mom died because she underestimated how much they valued theater over tactics. I learned from her mistake. The tactical displays showed the remaining enemy forces retreating, their coordinated assault falling apart with the loss of their command element. Station security forces were already moving to intercept, guided by intelligence Mara had provided about the conspiracy's structure. It's over, Admiral Kress said, watching enemy ships break formation and scatter. No, the Queen corrected. It's just beginning. We've stopped one attack, exposed one conspiracy. But Mara's intelligence shows this goes deeper than a single assault. They've been planning this for years. They won't stop because we won battle. Then we take the fight to them, General Thex said, his voice hard with resolve. We use the evidence this child brought us. We root out every traitor, every conspirator, every person who profits from suffering. We show them what happens when they threaten the peace. We do it legally, the Queen said firmly. By trial, by evidence, by law. The moment we abandon our principles in the name of security, we become what we're fighting against. Mara was quiet, staring at the scorched floor where the attackers had died. They believed they were right, she said softly. That's what makes them dangerous. They're not just greedy. They genuinely think war makes us stronger, that peace makes us weak. You can't negotiate with that. You can only prove them wrong. The Queen knelt beside her, bringing her massive form down to the child's level. Your mother spent her life proving them wrong. She built bridges between species that had been enemies for centuries. She showed that cooperation was stronger than conflict. The Queen's voice was gentle. You've honored her work today. You've saved thousands of lives, maybe millions, but the fight isn't over. I need to know if you're ready for what comes next. Mara met her eyes, and Joran saw something ancient and tired in that young face. "I've been ready since the day Mom died. Since the moment I realized that running wouldn't save me, wouldn't honor her sacrifice. I'm ready to fight, but not with weapons." "Then how? With truth, with evidence." "With the same thing Mom used." Mara pulled out another data chip, one she hadn't mentioned before. "This is everything. Not just names and financial records. Personal, communications, planning documents, philosophical manifestos, everything that shows who these people are and what they believe. Make it public. Let the galaxy see exactly what we're fighting against." The Queen took the chip with reverent care. Understanding its weight, this was the ammunition that could win a war without firing a shot. "You've been carrying this the whole time?" "I had to make sure you were really you first, that the conspiracy hadn't already won." Mara smiled sadly. "Trust is expensive when everyone wants you dead." "Not until this is finished." Mara straightened, exhaustion showing in every line of her small body. "But maybe for the first time in 3 years, I can stop running long enough to catch my breath." The Queen gestured to her attendants. "Take her to the royal quarters. Food, medical attention, anything she needs, she's under my personal protection." As guards moved to escort Mara away, she turned back one more time. "Thank you for believing me, for not treating me like just a child making up stories." "You stopped being just a child the day you survived that explosion," the Queen said. "You became something more dangerous, a witness with proof. Now we make them face what they've done." Joran watched Mara leave, surrounded by guards who would die before letting harm reach her. Then he turned to his Queen. "What are your orders?" "Secure the station. Begin arresting everyone on Mara's list. Lock down communications until we control the narrative." The Queen's voice was iron and fire. "Then we send a message to every corner of the Empire. The conspiracy is exposed. The traitors will face justice. And anyone else thinking about profiting from war should remember what happened here today." "The child?" "The child," the Queen said slowly, "has earned a place in history. When this is over, when the trials are complete and the conspirators are judged, I'm going to make sure the galaxy knows her name, knows what she sacrificed, what she survived, what she saved. She won't want that attention. Probably not, but she deserves it." The Queen looked at the destroyed throne room, at the evidence of violence that had tried and failed to break the peace. Her mother gave her life for what she believed in. Mara gave 3 years of her childhood. The least we can do is make sure no one forgets why. In the royal quarters, cleaned, fed, and finally allowed to rest, Mara Chen sat on a bed larger than any room she'd slept in for 3 years. The walls were covered in Kethran art, ancient tapestries showing the Empire's history. Wars, treaties, triumphs, disasters, a chronicle of 10,000 years of survival. She thought about her mother, about the woman who'd pushed her into an escape pod and died knowing her child would live, about the ambassador who'd believed in peace strongly enough to die for it. "I kept my promise, Mom," she whispered to the empty room. "I got the evidence to Auntie Vess. I helped stop them. I did what you asked." No answer came, but Mara didn't expect one. The dead were gone, leaving only the weight of their choices for the living to carry. She thought about the attackers she'd helped kill today. The true believers who died for their cause, convinced they were heroes fighting against weakness and decay. She didn't hate them, exactly. Hate required energy she didn't have left, but she was glad they were gone. Outside her window, the station's emergency teams worked to repair the damage. Ships patrolled the perimeter, hunting for any remaining threats. Across the Empire, security forces were arresting conspirators based on the evidence she'd risked everything to deliver. The war they'd wanted wouldn't come. Not today. Mara pulled the too large military jacket around her shoulders like a blanket, and finally, for the first time in 3 years, allowed herself to sleep without one eye open, without weapons hidden within reach, without an escape route planned. She slept and dreamed of her mother's smile and the sound of her laugh when Mara got too serious about things. "We're going to be okay, little one," her mother's voice whispered in the dream. "You made sure of it. You came home." When she woke, the Queen was there, sitting quietly in a chair designed for someone her size, reading reports on a datapad. She looked up when Mara stirred. "How do you feel?" "Tired. Hungry." "Safe." Mara sat up, running fingers through hair that someone had washed while she slept. "How long was I out?" 18 hours. "Your body needed it." The Queen set aside her pad. "The arrests are proceeding smoothly. 17 conspirators in custody so far, the rest being located. The Syndicate's network is collapsing. They're turning on each other, trying to bargain for leniency. Will you grant it? To those who cooperate, perhaps? To the leadership? The Queen's expression hardened. They ordered the death of my best friend. They tried to restart a war that killed billions. They hunted a child across the stars for years. No, they will face the full weight of imperial justice. Mara nodded slowly. Good. The human government has been notified of your survival. They're sending a diplomatic team. There's talk of awarding you honors, medals, recognition for what you've done. I don't want medals. I want my mom back. I know. The Queen's voice was infinitely gentle. But we don't get that. We get to honor her memory by finishing what she started. The peace she died for will continue. Because of you. What happens to me now? The Queen was quiet for a long moment, considering. That depends on what you want. You're a human citizen, but your mother was my friend and your family to me. You can return to human space, live with relatives, try to have a normal childhood. Or, she paused, choosing words carefully. You could stay here. Let me formally adopt you into the Imperial family. Give you the protection, the resources, the education to become whatever you choose to be. Mara thought about what normal meant for someone who'd survived what she had. Thought about trying to fit into a life that would never understand what she'd been through. If I stay, can I help? With the trials, with exposing the conspiracy, with making sure this never happens again? You would be expected to. Required to, even. The Empire will need your testimony, your insights, your knowledge. The Queen leaned forward. But I won't lie to you, Mara. This path leads to more pain, more difficult choices. You'll relive your mother's death in public trials. You'll face threats from those who want you silenced. You'll carry responsibilities that most adults struggle with. Sounds like the last 3 years, just with better food and actual beds. The Queen's laugh was surprised and genuine. Your mother would have said something exactly like that. Then I guess I'm staying, Mara smiled, feeling something settle in her chest. A decision made. A path chosen. Someone has to make sure Auntie Vest doesn't let the conspirators get off easy. Deal. The Queen extended one massive hand, and Mara shook it, her small fingers disappearing in that gentle grip. Welcome to the Imperial family, Mara Chen. Your mother would be so proud, and she'd probably just tell me to clean my room and do my homework. Well, you are 8 years old. Those are valid concerns. They laughed together, and for a moment the weight of everything lifted just slightly. Not gone, never gone, but manageable. Later, when the diplomatic teams arrived and the trials began, when Mara stood before the assembled governments of a dozen species and told her story, when she looked into cameras and recounted every horrible detail of her mother's death and her own survival, she would remember this moment. The moment she chose to fight. The moment an alien queen looked at a broken human child and saw a warrior. The trials took 6 months. Mara testified for 40 hours across multiple sessions, identifying conspirators, explaining financial records, detailing the evidence her mother had died protecting. She faced cross-examination from lawyers who tried to paint her as a traumatized child making up stories, who suggested the syndicate didn't exist, that the conspiracy was fabrication. She destroyed every argument with cold facts and documented evidence. The conspiracy members who'd been captured turned on each other spectacularly, each trying to minimize their own involvement by exposing others. The syndicate's network unraveled like cheap fabric, revealing corruption that reached into the highest levels of multiple governments. Humans were implicated. Catharines.
Vex. Traitors.
Even some peaceful ones, the species that had mediated the original peace treaty. No government was entirely clean, no species was entirely innocent. The galaxy watched in horror as the scope of the conspiracy became clear. Dozens of conflicts over the past decade that had seemed like natural tensions, organic disputes, random violence, all carefully orchestrated, all designed to undermine the peace treaty, to rebuild the war economy, to return to a status quo that certain powerful individuals found more profitable. Public opinion shifted decisively. The syndicate became a curse word. War profiteers found themselves pariahs. The peace treaty, which had been facing growing opposition, suddenly had overwhelming support. Mara watched it all from the Imperial Palace, where she studied human and Kethran history, learned 6 languages, trained in combat techniques that would keep her safe, and slowly began to process 3 years of trauma with therapists who specialized in helping survivors. She had nightmares. Days where she couldn't leave her room, moments where the weight of everything became too much and she broke down crying for the mother who would never hold her again. But she also had the Queen who checked on her every day, had Joran, who taught her advanced tactical thinking and told her stories about her mother's diplomatic victories, had a community of people who decided this child was worth protecting, worth nurturing, worth believing in. On the day the syndicate's leadership received their sentences, death for the architects, life imprisonment for the executors, lengthy prison terms for the enablers, Mara stood beside the Queen and watched justice unfold. "Do you feel better?" the Queen asked quietly. Now that they've been punished?" "No. Mom's still dead. The years I lost are still gone. Justice doesn't fix that." "Then why did we do this?" "Because the only way to honor the people we've lost is to make sure others don't suffer the same way." Mara looked up at the Queen. "Mom used to say that peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the choice to solve problems without violence. That's what we did. We chose justice over revenge. Process over vengeance. We proved that her way works." The Queen's hand settled on Mara's shoulder, a gesture that had become familiar over the months. "You're going to do great things, little one."
Your mother saw it.
"The question is, do you see it?" Mara thought about the frightened child who'd climbed out of a destroyed shuttle 3 years ago. Thought about the survivor who'd crossed the galaxy with nothing but determination and her mother's dying wish. Thought about who she was becoming, shaped by loss, but not defined by it. "I see someone who's tired of running. Someone who's ready to fight for what matters. Someone who's going to make absolutely sure that what happened to my mother never happens to anyone else." "Good," the Queen smiled. "Because I have a proposal. The Empire is establishing a new department. Intelligence and counter-conspiracy operations, dedicated to identifying and dismantling networks like the Syndicate before they can cause harm. I want you to help lead it when you're older. Use everything you learned, everything you survived to protect others." "I'm 8 years old. Now. But you won't be 8 forever. And until then, you'll train, you'll learn, you'll prepare." The Queen's voice was serious. "I'm not asking you to decide now. I'm asking you to think about it. Consider whether you want to spend your life making sure conspiracies like this never succeed again." Mara didn't need to think about it. She'd known her answer since the moment her mother pushed her into that escape pod. "I'm in. Whatever it takes. However long it takes. I'm going to make sure peace survives. Then we start tomorrow. Today, you're still a child who deserves to celebrate that justice was served." They held a memorial service for Ambassador Chen and the other victims of the Syndicate's violence. Thousands attended, from both human and Kethran governments, from species across the galaxy who'd lost people to the conspiracy's orchestrated conflicts. Mara spoke at the service, her voice steady, her words chosen carefully. "My mother believed in something simple, that talking was better than fighting. That understanding was stronger than hatred, that we could choose to be better than our worst instincts." She paused, looking out at the assembled dignitaries. The people who killed her thought that made her weak. They were wrong. It takes more courage to build bridges than to burn them, more strength to forgive than to hate, more wisdom to compromise than to conquer. But her death wasn't the end of her work. It was a challenge. To everyone here, to everyone watching across the galaxy, will we choose what she chose? Will we fight for peace the way others fight for war? Will we prove that cooperation is stronger than conflict? I'm going to spend my life trying to answer those questions. To honor her memory by making sure the peace she died for survives. I hope you'll join me." The applause was thunderous, sustained, genuine. Mara stepped down from the podium into the Queen's waiting embrace, letting herself be held while the weight of everything finally, fully settled onto her shoulders. She was no longer just a survivor, she was a symbol. A reminder of what the Syndicate had tried to destroy and failed. A living promise that the next generation would defend the peace their predecessors had died creating. It was a heavy burden for an 8-year-old, but Mara Chen, daughter of Ambassador Sarah Chen, adopted daughter of Queen Vesera of the Kethran Empire, survivor of the Syndicate's worst efforts, carrier of secrets that had toppled governments and exposed corruption across dozens of worlds, had carried heavier burdens for longer. She could carry this too. In the years that followed, she would become exactly what the Queen saw in her. A warrior for peace, a guardian against those who profited from suffering. A living reminder that even the most carefully constructed conspiracies could be brought down by courage, evidence, and the refusal to give up. But that was the future. Today, surrounded by people who loved her, honoring the mother who'd saved her, Mara allowed herself to simply be a child who'd survived something terrible and come out stronger. The alien girl had laughed when they underestimated her. The alien queen had proved her right, and together they would make sure the galaxy never forgot the price of peace, or the cost of trying to destroy it. The memorial ended with the lighting of remembrance flames, one for each victim of the Syndicate's violence. Mara lit her mother's flame with steady hands, watched it join thousands of others, a constellation of loss that would burn through the night. "I love you, Mom," she whispered. "I finished what you started. I'm going to keep going, I promise." The flame flickered, as if in response, and Mara smiled through her tears. Somewhere, in whatever came after, she chose to believe her mother was smiling too.